The dying field, the sky over the red plains of Marali, was filled with a dusty haze. Weak sunlight passed through the thin clouds, casting a soft glow over the scorched land. The creatures, small, gentle beings with long fur and bright eyes, lay scattered across the ground. Most of them were barely breathing. A few had already stopped. Lyra stood at the edge of the field, watching silently. She had tried everything. She gave them her water. She gave them the last of the fruit paste from her supply pack. She even tried to dig small holes to catch morning dew. But it wasn't enough. The creatures, known as Rayla, were like children to her. She had raised them from birth. Her people once believed they were sacred animals, protectors of harmony. Now they were dying in front of her, and she could do nothing. The planet had gone dry weeks ago. The drought stretched across the region, and even the native plants were turning to dust. She had sent a signal to the Galactic network, but no. Help came. Then she saw him, a shadow in the haze. A figure walking toward her slowly. Tall, wrapped in strange armor, with a container on his back and a simple mask over his face. A human. He didn't look threatening. In fact, he looked tired, like he had walked far, maybe too far. He stopped a few feet away and raised a hand in peace. "I saw your signal," he said. Lyra stared, shocked. "No one came. Until you?" "I was nearby," he said. "Far outpost. I heard the emergency call while scanning local channels." He stepped forward, his boots cracking the dry ground. He looked at the dying Rayla. One of the little creatures made a faint chirping sound and rolled onto its side. "Water," Lyra whispered. "They need water." He nodded slowly, then unstrapped the silver container from his back. She saw his hands shake as he held it. It was clear he had barely anything left. "This is all I have," he said. "I was keeping it for the return trip, but they need it more." She stared at him. "You'll die without it." He smiled. "They're worth more than one tired human." Without waiting for her reply, he knelt and opened the container. Gently, he poured a few drops into the mouth of the smallest Rayla. Its chest rose slightly. Then again, Lyra dropped to her knees beside him. "Why would you do this?" He looked at her with kind eyes. "Because no one else did." Asterisk the last. Drops the human's name was Leo. Lyra helped him pour the precious water slowly, creature by creature. The Rayla were too weak to drink much, just a few drops at a time. Still, she could see the change, tiny movements, quiet sounds, a flicker of life returning. But the container was nearly empty now. Leo sat back, breathing hard. Sweat clung to his skin, and his lips were cracked. He hadn't taken a single sip for himself. "You need water too," Lyra said softly. He shook his head. "Not now." They needed it more. But why? "You don't even know them." Leo looked at the sky. "Where I come from, we don't let the innocent suffer if we can help it. Doesn't matter what species they are." Lyra didn't understand humans. She had only heard stories, some saying they were dangerous, others calling them protectors. This one didn't seem dangerous. He seemed sad. "How far did you walk?" she asked. 70 kilometers, Leo replied, voice weak. "Wasn't easy. Heat's worse here." She stared at him in disbelief. "You walked that far, just because you heard my message?" Leo chuckled lightly. "Didn't expect to find someone still trying to save lives out here. Figured it would be a salvage site by the time I arrived." He coughed, a dry, painful sound. "We need to get you shade," Lyra said quickly. She helped him to a large rock nearby. She set up a small cloth sheet, making a crude shelter. The sun was strong now. "Too strong for someone with no water. You should rest," she said. "You did enough." He closed his eyes but didn't lie down. "What's the nearest place with water?" Lyra shook her head. Nothing nearby. The rivers are all dry. There's an old collection station, but it's a 5-day walk. Leo opened his eyes. Then I'll go tomorrow. No, she said sharply. You'll die before you make it. I'll make it, he whispered. Not for me, for them. Lyra felt her chest tighten. This man was serious. He was ready to die for creatures that weren't even his. She looked at the Rayla, some of them now trying to move again. You care too much, she said. Leo smiled. That's what being human is. Asterisk, the March Begins morning came with a pale sun rising over the dead horizon. The wind carried dust. Not relief. Lyra had not slept. She watched over the Rayla all night, wiping their faces and covering them from the chill. Some had survived the night thanks to Leo, but they were still weak. Leo stood near the rock, quietly checking his gear. His hands trembled slightly, but his eyes were focused. He had tied the empty water container to his pack and tightened the straps on his boots. You're serious about going, Lyra said. He looked up. If I don't go, they die. You'll die before you reach it. Maybe, he said, but I'll try. That's what matters. She wanted to stop him. Her people didn't take risks like this. But this human wasn't like her people. You should take my solar map, she said, handing him a small device. It'll guide you. At night, follow the twin stars. Leo took it with a nod. Thanks. Keep the Rayla cool during the day. Don't let them move too much. You speak like they're yours, she said. He smiled. For now they are. He turned to go. His walk was slow and heavy, but determined. Each step left a mark in the dust. Lyra watched until he vanished. Behind the hills, the land stretched endless beyond them. No shelter, no roads, only heat, stones, and sand. She looked at the creatures again. A few were crawling closer to one another. One of them, a small one with white fur, chirped softly. Lyra knelt and stroked its head. He's gone to find water, she whispered. Don't give up. Hours passed. The heat grew worse. Lyra rationed the last wet cloth to keep the weakest alive. The sun scorched the land, and she could feel the hopelessness growing in her heart. Leo was only one man, a fragile being in an unforgiving world. Yet somehow she believed he would return. By nightfall, a few of the Rayla stood, weak, trembling, but standing. Lyra wept quietly. The first sign of hope in days. Far out in the wilderness, Leo kept walking. His legs hurt, his lips were dry. But he kept repeating one thing in his mind. They're worth it. Asterisk, the price of kindness. Leo's boots were cracking. The soles had worn thin. Every step felt like fire against his feet. The wind blew hard across the flats, kicking up sharp dust that stung his face. His lips had split. His water container bounced lightly at his side, still empty. He had been walking for 2 days. He moved only at dawn and dusk now, hiding from the midday heat. He wrapped his jacket over his head and drank nothing, ate little. His only strength came from one thought. Don't let them die. Back at the Rayla field, Lyra kept busy. She crushed dry leaves to make weak medicine. She collected morning dew with cloth strips, squeezing out a few drops at a time. The Rayla were still fragile, but some could stand, eat, even make soft chirps. They always turned toward the path Leo had taken, as if waiting. At night, she looked at the stars and whispered, Please, let him be safe. On the 3rd day, Leo's legs gave out. He collapsed beside a dead tree trunk. The sky spun above him. His breath came in short gasps. For hours he didn't move. A part of him wanted to stop, just sleep, sink into the silence. But then he pulled something from his chest pocket, a tiny cloth with a child's drawing, a gift from a Rayla, given long ago during a visit to their colony. It was badly drawn. with shaky lines, but it showed a human figure holding hands with small creatures under a sun. Leo stared at it. Not yet, he whispered. He forced himself up, step by step, hour by hour. On the fourth night, he saw lights. Metal towers blinking red, a signal post, then the old water station. The place was covered in dust, but still standing. He stumbled through the cracked gate and fell beside the access. Panel. Power, come on. He muttered to his shock. The solar cells still worked. With a soft buzz, the pump clicked. And then dashwater. Clean, clear, cold. Leo didn't drink. Not yet. He filled the container first, hands shaking. Then another. Then one more. Only after all were sealed, he took a single sip, and then, without sleeping, he turned back. The return through fire. Leo's return journey began under a moonless sky. The stars above were cold and quiet, but the weight on his back was heavier than before. 3 filled water containers strapped tight. Every step pressed into old wounds. His legs screamed. His mind blurred, but he didn't stop. He walked through pain, through cracked stones, through air so dry it stole his breath. He didn't think. He just moved. One step, then another. Back at the dying field, Lyra counted each sunrise. It had been 5 days. She feared the worst. No one could survive that long on foot, not without water, not in this heat. Still, she kept the creatures alive as best she could. She crushed roots for nutrients. She rationed everything. She waited. And then, on the 6th evening, she saw a shadow in the dust. At first she thought it was a hallucination, a mirage. But the shape grew closer, stumbling, dragging. Leo. His armor was scratched, his mask broken. His face was burned by sun and wind. But in his arms, he carried the water. He collapsed right in front of her, barely conscious. I got it. They live? He breathed. Lyra caught the containers and dropped beside him. She opened one and rushed to the Rayla. They chirped softly as the water touched their lips. Their bodies moved, slowly regaining strength. Some lifted their heads and nuzzled each other. One even stood on its own legs. Lyra's hands shook as she worked, giving each one small sips. When she finally turned back, Leo hadn't moved. Leo! She cried. He opened his eyes slightly. Tell me they're okay. She nodded, tears in her eyes. They'll live. Because of you. He smiled faintly. Good? His head tilted. His eyes closed. Lyra placed a hand on his chest. He was still breathing, but weakly. Too weak. He had given everything. She shouted into the communicator, calling for help again. This time she said something different. Human down. Critical condition. He saved them all. Please send medical now. She didn't know if anyone was listening. But this time, she knew someone had to come, because this human had done what no one else had. Asterisk. Echoes of a hero. The emergency beacon Lyra activated flashed steadily now. A strong signal, boosted by Leo's backup transmitter, pulsed into the sky. She sat beside him, wiping his face with a damp cloth. His breathing was shallow. His body shook with fever, but she wouldn't let him go. The Rayla, revived by the clean water, moved around him in a slow circle. Some rested their heads near his legs. One even curled beside his hand, offering warmth. They understood what he had done. They were alive because of him. A full day passed. Still no ship. No rescue. Lyra began to lose hope again. Then just as dusk fell, a shadow crossed the sky. A deep hum followed. She looked up and saw a sleek ship descending, dust flying in every direction. Relief crashed over her like a wave. 2 medics in silver suits jumped out, rushing toward her. Human. Male, she pointed. Severe dehydration. Internal damage. He carried the water. He walked both ways. They nodded and quickly got to work. As they loaded Leo onto a stretcher, one of them looked at her. "He did all that." Lyra nodded, voice tight with emotion. "He didn't even drink until the creatures had enough." The medic stared at Leo for a long moment, then whispered, "Typical human." Lyra followed them into the ship. She cradled one of the Rayla in her arms. It chirped softly, sensing the tension. The ship lifted, leaving behind the dry plains. As they rose into the atmosphere, Lyra looked down once more at the land where Leo had almost died and where he had saved an entire species. Hours later, in the orbiting medical station, Leo lay unconscious in a recovery pod. His vitals were stabilizing, but it would be days before he woke. A group of scientists and rescue officials gathered around Lyra. Why would he do this? One asked Dot. She replied without hesitation, because no one else did. They were silent. The Rayla had been declared protected life forms within hours. Data from Lyra's reports and footage from Leo's body cam spread quickly across the galactic net. News of the human who gave everything went viral. Messages flooded in. Alien, leaders, citizens, even children. Is he alive? Did he make it? We want to thank him. But Leo didn't hear them. Not yet. Asterisk, the human who gave everything 3 days later. Leo opened his eyes. The light was soft. The ceiling above him was smooth and silver. Machines beeped gently beside his bed. His body felt heavy, but the pain was less. He blinked slowly, then turned his head. Lyra was there. She sat beside his bed, holding a small Rayla in her lap. Her eyes widened the moment she saw him move. "You're awake," she said, her voice shaking with relief. Leo tried to smile. "Did they make it?" Lyra leaned closer. "They lived, all of them." Leo exhaled slowly. "Good, worth it then." She placed a hand gently on his arm. "You nearly died." He looked at her, eyes tired but calm. "Would have been okay if they were safe." She shook her head. "You didn't just save them, Leo. You changed everything." She explained what had happened, how the footage from his body cam was broadcast across the galactic net, how entire systems were now pushing to protect vulnerable species, how the Rayla were given full preservation status, how thousands of messages had arrived at the medical station from beings across the galaxy. Everyone wanted to meet the human who gave everything for creatures that weren't even his. Leo chuckled softly. "Bit dramatic. I just saw something worth saving." That afternoon, he was strong enough to sit up. The doctors allowed visitors under supervision. A small group of Rayla padded quietly into the room. One by one, they curled beside him, rested their heads on his legs, and chirped gently. Leo looked down at them, smiling. "I missed you guys." One of them, the smallest, held something in its tiny paw, a dried flower. It placed it on his chest, then curled beside his hand. Lyra stepped forward. "They haven't left this room since we arrived." Leo stared at the flower for a long moment. "I didn't save them," he whispered. "They saved me." Later that evening, a reporter asked him the same question the galaxy had been asking. "Why did you risk your life?" Leo's reply was simple: "Because no one else did, and someone had to." The end.